So we are. I'm still trying to make sure it goes. I don't have anybody in the sound booth tonight, so hopefully I've hit all the right buttons. I don't have any slides. I didn't have time to put them together. I hate to say that, but I'm just waiting for it to show up online. So I'm gonna check the app again. I got a little bit of an echo there, so bring that back a little bit. It is showing. Okay, there we go. Yeah, you're testing one, two. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, so we are online. We are live, and so I know there's people still shopping down at the Remnant shopping mart. Yeah, and so we'll give them just a few more minutes to get in. This is my one, I say one and only night. I don't usually teach on Wednesdays, and but we're in between teachers. So if you're watching or we're going to watch the replay of this tonight, starting next Wednesday, um, Joshua, yep, and Courtney McEwen will be teaching a new series called Soul Journey. So be prepared for that. I don't fully know what it means as far as what they're teaching, but I'm sure it'll be great. I think a lot of what they're going to teach is from life experiences starting next Wednesday. So if you don't know their story, they have a very impactful story of some things they've walked through, some things even from being homeless. So they have found themselves at one time in their life sleeping on the dirt. So, and God has just a unique way of restoring things and doing things incredibly in our life if we just kind of hold on and keep moving forward. But Jesus does like to showboat a little bit. So I hope you don't mind me drinking my pink drink tonight, full of all kinds of good stuff that's very good for me, and you know, good to see the Petersons. Grant come to set me straight tonight. Always good with that. I understand completely. I've been meaning to reach out to Cindy this week. I just have not had time. I know it. Saying, Cindy, I need some revelation of some impartation in my front yard. So I need revelation of it where she can impart some help in my front yard. So I'm thinking about just pulling up all my shrubs and starting over. So anyway, I'm gonna maybe one day, Cindy, you can come by and give me some pointers of how I need to do that. So and what I need to replace it with. Those things are just so big, and when you cut them back, there's holes in them. They're just shrubs. Shrubs. Yeah. Yeah. They are green. That is. Listen, I'm not one of those type people. I am not. I did go to a college that really that was one of their big I guess degrees. That along with doing golf maintenance and golf work and golf course. Um, you know, yeah, yeah. So anyway, so let's get started so we can get finished tonight. Thank you for being here. There's many that'll be watching online tonight. I thought Cheryl would be here, being that I supported her, but she's not. Oh, she just went to get food and left. Okay, I got it. I got it. I got it. So, but and Michael too, because Michael has no responsibilities at home. So, you know, no, I'm just playing with them. But yes, sir. Sure. Go ahead. Amen. So the good news is this is fresh off the press. I finished it about 45 minutes ago. So it's either going to be really good or really bad. So never bad. So I thought about I put this seat here so I'd stand here tonight and not move so I could be in front of the camera and not get in a preaching mode but more of a teaching mode tonight. But I was scrambling because I knew that last week that I'd be teaching tonight, but yet I usually when I'm teaching on a Wednesday, then I have to divide my Monday and Tuesdays because I also have to study for war zones on Tuesday nights. And if you didn't see that last night, it was really good. So if you haven't seen the Tuesday Night Warzone podcast, go back and watch it on our app. It's well worth it because we talked about why are there so many mass shootings, and we started defining those spirits that were coming against it. We got a lot of information from Rabbi Jonathan Kahn. So just an amazing man of God who's Jewish that understands the spirit realm, and we talked about the ancient spirits coming back from thousands of years ago and how we've opened up those portals. And one of those portals that we opened up was in 1964. We took the protection away from our kids. So right there it started, and then there's other dates that really popped out last night. So if you want to see that, please do. But as I was getting ready, starting last night after I got home, started studying for tonight, I thought about the word failure. And I thought about how we don't like the word failure and how we hate to fail, but can there be a return on our failures? Can there be something that because we have failed, there is a return? You always hear this word return like, I want a return on my investment. We hear that all the time. If I sow something in, I want something to return to me. And a lot of times we only look at a return from our successes. That when we succeed, there is a return, absolutely. When you do something that accomplishes something, there is typically a return for your investment of time, money, efforts, ideas, dreams, whatever they might be. But very, very few people look at how can I get a return on every time I failed. I guess I could ask those here tonight, how many of you have ever failed? I know Grant will not stick up his hand. How many have failed in this room? Look at all these hands. Absolutely. Who has failed this week?
Who has failed 2 seconds ago?
Go ahead. Well, it's true, but I mean, listen. You're not calling the kettle black here, but again, sometimes we magnify our failures in the wrong way, and all of a sudden, I guess my question tonight, if we think about it, when we think about successes and failure, what would we attempt to do if we knew failure was not on the table? If failure was impossible. Now, we have done things and not failed at them. We have done things and been successful. But what would you take a risk at? If you knew there was no possibility of failure, would it change the way you approach things? Absolutely. I think it would. If you investing your time, your money, your talents, your efforts into something, knowing that you would not fail and there will be a huge investment coming back, who would not sign up for that? Absolutely. But here's the thing. That you might think, is that a good question? It's maybe at the front end it's a good question, but in the back end it's a horrible question. Because nothing is certain. I mean, even if you had the greatest insight of a stock, I mean, yeah, of course you say, well, man, I wish I'd have bought Microsoft back in the 70s. Well, you can't live in the back. But even if you had a guarantee, or you think you had a guarantee, you had an insight on a trading opportunity that probably would be illegal because inside trading is illegal. So if you have this revelation, or excuse me, information, and you're like, man, I'll put every penny I have because I know this company's going to sell, it's going to split, and all the stocks that I bought are going to come back double. But even at that, because it has not happened yet, if you go in with that mindset, well, this cannot fail, there's a great possibility you're setting yourself up for failure. Okay? So, and my thought was, anything that sets you up realistically with unrealistic expectations is not good. So when you have unrealistic expectations, sometimes that is guaranteed failure because you're over expecting something. Okay? And so we must realize that every time we do something, there is a possibility that we might fail at it. How do we know that? Our lives kind of amplify that a little bit. Okay? So here, the better question is, think of it like this. What would I attempt to do if I knew failure was possible? Not impossible, but would I change anything about the way I do things based on when I'm going into it, there's a great possibility I'm going to fail at it? Do you still try to accomplish it? Or do you avoid it like the plague? You're like, no, something, that don't have good over, that has nothing good on it. There's nothing that I can see that can be prosperous from it, so I'm going to steer away from it. These are things to think about when you are trying to decide, what do you do with your life? So I began to think, and I did as my studies today, how do we then get a return on our failures? If you're taking notes, here's a good one here. Number one, be responsible to properly prepare for the future, for failure, excuse me. Be responsible to properly prepare for failure. But think of it like this. You must help people define the reality of that. And you've heard me talk about reality for weeks now. Reality, listen, I'm getting up. Reality is where we are. Reality is not where we've been. Reality is not future tripping. The reality is where I am making a decision about today. And we have to teach people that, listen to me, in that moment that you could fail, because if we don't teach people that there's a possibility of failure, then when failure comes, their whole world is blown up. I'm not here doom and glooming you tonight. I just give you information tonight, okay? Let me see where I'm at. So next thought here. Let me say it like this. You're talking about failure. At the beginning of life, the fear of failing is the highest. I want you to think of that. When you're beginning in life, you are guarding against something that you're probably going to walk through. When you might say, well, I'm new to this marriage, and you're trying to guard against failing against your spouse. And we guard against it. We're like, but here again, that's an unrealistic expectation that you will not fail at some things. So what we have to do, we end up guarding something so highly that we don't walk through it. We're trying to avoid something I think God is trying to walk us through. Not that he's the God of failure, but the reality of it, in our humanity, we will mess up. And if we don't have issues, then there is what? Your issue, okay? So I don't want to fail at my new marriage. I don't want to fail my parents. I don't want to. And I thought about my daughter. She has, when she was running, and she had a coach, and now she's been dancing since she was, 4 or 5 years old. And she's so young, she is so afraid to fail. I mean, and we as parents at times, we put an unrealistic expectation on them to achieve what we did not achieve. And we're doing it. Okay? So again, at the beginning is where at the beginning of our life, the fear of failing is the highest. But also this, at the beginning, it's the most probable that you will fail is the highest. That when you're beginning anything, there is a possibility it's not going to go exactly like you thought it would. Is that true? It is absolutely true, okay? Why? Usually because it's new to you. Think of these things, okay? It's new to you. It's almost like this. God, I don't want to say this. If it's, because I know where mine's going. If it's new to me and it's the first time I'm going to do it, there's a great possibility I'm going to fail at it. Or it's not going to go exactly like I thought it would go. I think about my honeymoon night. My wife's probably watching this. I mean, men thinks, we know how to do it. You think you do. But that woman's not telling you, you failed miserably. So you can cock-a-doodle-doo all you want to, Jacoby, but I'm telling you. I mean, and that's why he failed. but we do. We're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to mess this up. We probably are. You're going to entertain you're the best on the planet, but you're probably not. I'm just speaking truth tonight. So all of a sudden, we go in with these huge expectations all night long. Yeah, about 15 minutes later, at the max. You know what I'm saying? Single people need to hear this, so I hope you get married. But you know something? I mean, but these things that are new to us, we've never done this before, there's a possibility of failure. And I think if we are so, I don't know, we've been taught the opposite, that, man, you're just not going to fail at it. And I think part of us not just being human beings, but us as being maybe even leaders in things, that we must have responsibility to prepare ourselves and others that when failure comes, what do we do with it? I think it's hugely important. Okay? I remember, how can I say this? I remember when Gabriel was born. And I had all these dreams for Gabriel. I knew I knew my past, I knew my giftings, I knew what I was capable of doing, I knew where I didn't go as far as I wanted to go. And I told myself, I said, if I have a boy, I'll set him up for success. I'll put all of my knowledge and skills into him to go far beyond what his daddy did and be one of the most successful tennis players on the planet. And Rodonna would say, just let Gabriel figure it out. No, I got it figured out. No, just let Gabriel figure it out. And this is where he got hurt. Because I'm gearing up. He's getting ready to turn 3. I'm like, it's about time to put his tennis racket in his hand. It's putting an expectation that was borderline a requirement for him to be better than his daddy. And there's a great opportunity. If what had happened had not happened, he would have failed because I didn't teach him. I could only teach him based on my successes, not on my failures. Hope you got that. So how else can we get a return on our failures? Here's the second thing. This is so important. Keep failure and successes together. And then I could ask you the question, What is the most important lesson you've ever learned in your life? And 99% of people will talk about their failures, about their losses, and about their trauma. And listen to me. And if all you talk about is failure and that you did not come through, you don't talk about how you broke through, then a lot of times you're stuck in the mindset that I will always fail. So think of that tonight, okay? So you'll have to go back and listen. So why can't, because I got a lot to compact in a small amount of time. So why can't, listen to me, why can't you separate them? And here's my thought. Because if you don't, then humility will not be learned. And I'll stand a better chance of becoming arrogant. If I can't talk about my failures and my successes, if all I can talk about is my successes, then I become arrogant. If all I talk about my failures, are you hearing me tonight? Okay? So I'll stand a better chance not feeling like a failure all the time. And here's another thought. It will teach me resilience. What is resilience? My ability to recover from a loss. These things are important because when we talk about, we do it in deliverance, transformation. When we talk about, when we're working with people through trauma, we just can't take out a trauma and not put something good back in. So I have to talk about the trauma, but I have to talk about the rejoicing and the freedom you get once there's a divine exchange there. It's the same thing with life and failure. I just can't talk about failure, but I just can't talk about my successes. Because I need the humility that will come through my failures, and I don't need this what I call it, this I'm trying to look at how do I call it? This I gotta find it again. Arrogance, thank you. This arrogance that comes through I'm always successful. Have to be careful there. So when we keep both humility and resilience close, here's a key. Because they both are producing from my failures and my successes, when I keep them close, all of a sudden my life becomes more balanced. And humility. Those are learned from my successes and my failures. And when I keep them close, listen to me, all of a sudden my life is not like this. It's not like a roller coaster. All of a sudden my life becomes more balanced because I can talk about my successes and I can talk about my failures. And all of a sudden my life is not all of a sudden, everything's great. And I'm like, I'm your best friend when everything's great, Pastor Jamie, but all of a sudden I have trauma in my life and I can't find you. One minute you're the greatest friend, the next thing you're AWOL somewhere. It's because you're not balancing. You're not balancing the humility that comes and the resilience that comes through my successes and my failures. And when I can talk openly about those and I join them together, I'm going to talk about my traumas. That's all I talk about. Trauma. Oh my goodness. Or I talk about how great I am. Then suddenly I don't have resilience, I don't have humility. And all of a sudden my life, guys, are like riding the coasters at Six Flags, or it's like, and you wonder why you're like this, over and over and over. This is a Bill Gates quote. No, Bill Gates, I'm not even a huge Bill Gates fan, but this is pretty cool. He says, success can be a lousy teacher. It makes people think they can't lose. Number 3. Talking about a life of failure with failure in it. Number 3, for writing down, understand the difference between good misses and bad misses. What's a good miss? You didn't win, but you finished. And because of that, listen to me, you will move closer to the purpose of God that he has in your life. You did not win, but you finished. And here's the problem sometimes, and the opposite is the bad miss. The bad miss is, I see that I'm not winning, so I quit. Good miss and a bad miss. I mean, how many of us, including myself, it's like you'll start this project, you'll live out this dream, you'll have this brilliant idea, and all of a sudden when tough times comes, as you're trying to birth something, you abort the baby. Yeah. Well, y'all kind of quiet tonight a little bit. Huh? You hear me saying this all the time. A good miss is when we fall forward. A bad miss is when we fall backwards. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, I don't mind falling as long as you fall forward. At least you're still making progression, advancements. Okay? A good miss is where I make adjustments. A bad miss is where I make excuses. A good miss, make adjustments. So everything's not going my way, Jacoby. Do I just throw the baby out with the bathwater, or do I make an adjustment so that the plan God has given me moves forward? Or the bad miss is, that was just a bad idea, Marcia. Let's just abort it. Let's make an excuse. Anybody ever made an excuse for your failure? Or my patio back door. Landscaping. Garage. Oh my gosh. You'll have to go back. Listen. Yeah. I got a lot to cover. Here we go. You can go from failure to success. You can never go from excuses to success. Failure to me is just, let's just try again. An excuse says, I'm just not going to do it. And I'm telling you guys how many times, I'm talking about practical stuff tonight that I have lived through, even with the planning of this church. Do I make an excuse or do I make an adjustment? And usually that adjustment is not trying to autocorrect you, but get myself in line. Yeah. I think about these good and bad misses. I think about 2 weeks ago we were watching the Masters. And I know some of you, probably none of you care, but it's a big deal that Phil Mickelson was playing. Number one, he left the tour, went to the Live Tour, and the PGA Tour hates him now. But he went for the money. They paid him $200 million. I probably would have went too. But why was he so successful? He's 54 years old. He doesn't have the power, the swing. He doesn't have uh, the youthfulness to hit it as far as everybody else. But I've heard him say this: when I miss, I know where to miss it. If you know anything about golf and the Masters, is that there's places that say you do not want to leave your ball because you can't get up and down. So if you're going to miss to the correct side. Meaning if you're a fader of the ball and you're supposed to stay away from the left, your miss will be to the right. Because at that point, you have an opportunity to recover. So there's things in our life, guys, where we've made bad choices, and then there's sometimes that you end up making a bad choice, but you made it in the right area. And you can recover from it. It's important, good and bad misses. Number 4, talking about failures tonight. This one's hard for me. Embrace that is hard. Embrace that is hard. And I heard a great quote. Everything worthwhile is uphill. Everything worthwhile is almost out of your reach that's going to make you work for it. We're in a society today. Listen, I'm no fool. I have a teenager. I listen to her as she talks about other teenagers. I almost wonder, where did the work ethic go? When my mother passed away, my thought was, we lost a generation that we might not ever see again. Not see them in another place. I'm talking about how they were built. Think about Grant and Cindy. They're a little up in age. Not old, just up in age. I, I can promise you, Grant has seen some hard times that he had to work for some things. He had to decide, was it worth the uphill battle? Or do I just ditch the idea and look for something that somebody will give me? Everybody's doing this. Who's doing this? Everybody. Who's doing this? Listen, I'm not here to tell you it's not hard. An uphill climb. I remember when we trained, when I was playing tennis in high school, they would take us to the football field. Like, what? There's no tennis courts on a football field. I remember the first time as a ninth grader. He took us, he says, see those bleachers? Climb them. I'm like, huh? What's that got to do with tennis? I remember he's like, we're going to climb them until you throw up. I'm like, who said that?
Jeremiah.
Yeah. But see, that's it's like we're in a society where I'm not saying everybody doesn't work for something. Don't, but if we're not careful, we'll back off of the uphill climb and just say, what will you give me? Some thoughts. And I got to move on, okay? Oh, here we go. What's next? Once you embrace that life will be difficult, then it becomes not so difficult. When you embrace there's going to be times where it's difficult, once you get to that difficult place, it makes that difficulty not so bad. Those who struggle with life have not embraced life. Just a thought. I'll throw it out there. I had when we were when we were juniors playing tennis, there was, let's see, 10, 12, 14, there was five categories of junior players. 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. So five categories where you could play in, each year for 2 years. I grew up playing with a guy by the name of Al Parker. Al Parker's grandparents owned Claxton Fruitcake Company. Everything was given to Al Parker. He was given the best tennis lessons. He could pay the highest. He could get the best instructor because his parents had lots of, or his grandparents had lots of wealth. Tennis courts. We were trying to find public courts to play at. He had them at his home. He dominated. Listen, nobody could touch him. He won the 10-year-olds. He was a national champion at 10 years old, 12, 14. He won all categories. It's never been done again in the history of tennis. Has any junior been a national champion in all categories? He went to UGA, successful at the University of Georgia. He graduated, turned pro, and could not do it. There wasn't much of an uphill climb for Al Parker. Al Parker didn't have to go to a pub. I'm not dissing on the fact that he had money. His grandparents had money. He didn't have to wait in line at a public court. He didn't have to not get lessons like we were trying to teach ourselves. I mean, he was killing us. I mean, I was good, but that guy was just a machine. But then he got on on the world tour and realized there were some people out there a little hungrier than he was. What I'm saying is, a little failure will bring a lot of success. Embrace it. Embrace the fact, listen to me, that, and this is hard, that life is hard. Embrace the fact that, man, my marriage is difficult at times. But if I stick through it and I walk through it, all of a sudden I get through that. And I'm just not talking about my failure, my success or my failure, but my success. Remember, we need to mirror those together. It balances out our life, okay? Number 5. Let me see if I missed something. Oh, yeah, here's a good one. I've had people over the years, this is a statement they'll say, man, I want to do what you do. These are young whippersnapper wannabe pastors. Or some of you guys. Man, he don't work. He don't have to do much. Man, he gets a decent salary. He only works on Sundays. Yeah, I'm like, no, absolutely not.
They don't even call him when he's on vacation.
You know?
Allow him to have a vacation.
And they say, listen, they say, I want to do what you do. But here's the key. Do they want to do what I did? To do what I do. Again, it's embracing the hard things. Okay? Now I'll move on. Number 5. Oh, wait, I left out something. I got so much stuff here. This is back in under number 4. Every day you have to engage with your potential. No. It's just a thought. Every day you have to engage with your potential. What that means, it shouldn't be any of this. Science, this is whole off the wall. Science tells us this is the worst thing you can do in life is sit. You either stand, because digestion don't work right. A lot of stuff in your body doesn't work right. If you sit at a desk all day, they say your life will be much shorter. That sitting is the worst thing you could do in life. Either you stand or you lay down. So you walk through life moving, and you rest at night to recover. I'm just giving you information. Number 5,
Are we truly going to 5?
we are going to 5. Anticipate, you're not going to like this one. Anticipate failure. Why? Anticipation influences preparation. What do you mean? When opportunity comes, listen to me, when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. You say, what do you mean? I'll give you an example. I can't sit in that chair. But so my mom, when my dad had died, that's why you go back and look at it.
I don't be sitting, Pastor. So I don't have time to go back.
When you're walking around tomorrow, look at it.
Yes, I could run into something.
I'm going to explain what I just said. So when my dad had died, my mom got remarried to a guy by the name of Ted Lewis. Ted was, since she's dead, I can tell all her dirty laundry. But I don't think I'll say that. I'll just say this. She had to have some surgery. And she went to Atlanta. And I was just a young kid. I would have been 10. No. I'd been, 11, let's see. I've been 11 or 12. I was playing tennis at the time. I had started. I was in junior high. It's funny, you want to hear how I got started? It's pretty interesting. So I was a kid that had lost his dad that didn't want to do nothing, but just caused trouble. Me and my mom, my other brothers were already married and gone. I was the baby left. I'm sitting in English class, and I'm causing trouble. So he's Dr. Overstreet now, but Mr. Overstreet at the moment, he wasn't a doctor yet, called me out and said, "Sir, come sit on the front." I was in the back, and I was just, can you believe I was a troublemaker? So I get there, and I'm sitting, and I'm still just yapping. And I have my hands like, if this is the desk flat, I have my hands like this. Just over. And he comes by. He was notorious to take his paddle and hit the desk with it and just get your attention. The key is he missed the desk, and those paddles went across my fingers and almost took them fingers off. I screamed. I'm like, he went into panic mode, like I'm going to lose my job. And the principal gets involved, and anyway, long story short, I become really good friends with Mr. Overstreet. He says, "Let me teach you tennis. Let me give you something. Let me get you active in life." That's how I got started. Back to the story. So I'm 12 years old. I'm playing tennis, and I love it. I'm already thinking big. Like, I'm going to be, well, he wasn't even playing then. Andre Agassi. I think he was training then. He wasn't on the tour yet. But I'm like, John McEnroe was out there, Yvonne Lendl, Chris Everett Lloyd, Matt Spielander, Bjorn Borg, all those guys. I'm like, I loved it. So my mom's in the hospital up in Atlanta. My brother says, man, I got a friend. Can't remember his name. He's got a private plane. When I say a private plane, it's like a four-seater. It might be a two-seater. You stick four people in. It was little. He says, I got a friend, man. He'll fly us up to Atlanta. Oh, okay. So me and my brother, Terry, along with a pilot, are in this little bitty Cessna, I think it is. It's a small, guy. It's like a trainer. So we're, flying, and this storm comes up. And all of a sudden, the pilot says, or he didn't say anything. I'm like, or he says, we're just going to fly through it. He says, it's just too big. I can't get around it. He says, the ceiling is very low. I can't get beneath it, and I can't fly above it. It's just big. He says, we're like, okay. We're flying through the storm, and all of a sudden, lightning hits the plane. When it does, the plane, he loses control, and the plane flips upside down like this. I'm 12 years old. I'm thinking, it's over. When you next thing you know, your head has hit the top of you're like, something's wrong. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we're going to die. I'm not going to fulfill any purpose. I mean, my mom's the only thing I really got in my life. She's the stability of my life. My dad's gone. It's pretty fresh of his death. And I'm like, I've got this new hobby. I like playing tennis, and I'm actually pretty good at it. And I'm like, I like to do that. All these things are going through a 12-year-old's mind. And for somehow that pilot gets that puppy back right side up, and we fly through the storm. And when he lands that plane, I have never been so excited to be on the ground in my life. And I thought about it. I said, so how did you do that? How did you do that? And I actually got this information from Verdana's daddy, who was a pilot. He says, when we train to be a pilot, they run us through every possible failure we could ever have, and we work out a solution to it. So we're anticipating what might happen, so when it happens, we're prepared for it. Never thought of it like that. So when I say number 5, is that right? Yeah, anticipate failure so that you'll have the proper response when failure comes. You have prepared yourself when something happens. I thought it was brilliant when Mr. Miles said that. I think it's key, okay? So anticipation. So as I anticipate, I'm going to break this down. As I anticipate failure, what are some things I need to do? Number 1, keep moving. And this is key, I think, for our church. Keep moving forward. People and resources are attracted to things that move. Without a vision, the people what? Because they're not moving. I think it's imperative, not just for this church, for your lives, that how do I continue to press and move forward? Because people are attracted to people that are on the move. Again, the worst thing you can do is what? Sit down. Okay? When you begin to move, here's some thoughts. Your mind will think of things it's never thought of before. Your eyes will begin to see things they've never seen before. Your mouth begin to say things they've never said before. Things just happen when you move. It's important. Number 2, keep adjusting. Man, when things don't go just right, man, adjust. I think it's important. I'm teaching myself tonight. Number 3, this is just a faith thought. Always believe. So you're actively moving. You're adjusting along the way. And the whole time, you're believing all things are possible through Christ who gives me strength. Okay. I have two more. Number 6. Encourage others with your failures. Oh, I think that's a good lesson in life. It's a good lesson in parenting. I really want to just tell my kids how successful I've been. I really want to just tell them how good I was at tennis in college and what my ranking was and what companies I signed with and the success stories. And did I work hard at it? Absolutely. Do I want to just tell them how good I can prepare teaching or a message and just be, eh, just be, just I don't know, just be very proud of your daddy because he seems to get a lot of things right. And never tell them when their daddy failed. I think we have a lot of kids that are suffering today because they can't meet the expectations of a perfect parent. And they quit life because mom and daddy never told them how bad they were. I remember we would go to these church growth conferences. When I was a youth pastor, Pastor Maxwell was our pastor, and he would take us to different things. And all you heard was how successfully they grew their mega churches. And some of them did blossom overnight. I think about Chris Hodges. He's got the largest, we're considered an ARC church. He is the ARC person. They created the ARC. Success just found him. He'll sit there and says, I don't understand. I came, I advertised a Sunday, and the gymnasium filled up. And it's never not been filled. Today he has 22 campuses. I'm sure he's gone through some failures. I'm not saying that. But if you aren't careful, if all you're hearing about is where people have succeeded, which is it's great for encouragement, but it's horrible for reality. Because a lot of people listening in life are going through some very tough times. And I think we need to hear about this. I think like our government, they need to own up to when they fail. To stand in a press conference and just tell us all their escalades and how good they are and how their legislation has just helped all of us. Just tell us you messed up. It's not going to make us not like you any worse. It might make me like you better because all of a sudden there's humanity there. There's, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's just that was a freebie.
Yeah. I thank you for it.
Okay? Right. So, here's my thought. If you want to impress people, talk about your successes. If you want to impact people, tell them about your failures. But listen to me. You can fail and be successful. I'm not here telling you just go out and fail all the time to impact people. No. Remember, you do not need to separate successes and failures because they will create a great balance in your life that people can learn from you. They can be inspired by you, but they can also be impacted by you. I think that's important. Y'all enjoying this? Whew. Number 7. Actually, I'm moving quicker than I thought tonight. If you choose the right response to failure, it will develop your character. If someone ever asked you, this one's very personal to me. They're all personal to me, but this one really hits home with me. Have you ever asked yourself or someone asked you, if you could do something over in life, what would you do? If you could go back and change something and have a do-over, would you do it? And one more stop and let's just answer that question tonight. We'll start with Brent. If you could do a do-over, what would that do-over be? Put you on the spot. I could give you about 100, but anybody got one off the top of their heads?
Go back.
Jeremiah. Okay. 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 Anybody else?
That'll be mine too.
What is it? Be better in school?
Same thing. What he said.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Anybody else? Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'll set up some counseling for you guys tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, okay. I mean, that's honest. Yeah. It still doesn't mean you wouldn't have got married or you don't get married. It just prolongs the marriage, possibly. But because listen, I married Rodonna at 18, and I don't suggest that to anybody. No, don't do it. Do I love her? Absolutely. Did we go through some hell? Absolutely. Did I create the hell? Yes. Yeah. I mean, I was traveling with a lot of trauma. But she stuck with me, man. Stuck with me. Anybody else? No? All right. You're up then. So your past mistakes brought you here. Okay. That's really what I was looking for. Because our past failures are all defining moments in our life. It's a lesson that we have the opportunity to learn from. And I'll close with the Gabriel story. Right.
But you had a choice to make.
Listen, we won't get into it because we've been teaching on it or preaching on it for weeks on Sundays, but the iniquity or willful sin. It's going to fall in those two categories. Either it wasn't your fault and it got passed down, or you did something, you chose to do it. So, but even at those, again, the iniquities, I understand. If you could go back and change your bloodline, that'd be a beautiful thing, probably. But the thing is when you, Jeremiah, when you break out of the mold of your past and of your father and his father up to 4 generations, all of a sudden, if you didn't have that, you have nothing to break out of. See, God knew that. He knew that one day Jeremiah would be born, and Jeremiah would set a new course for your bloodline. And you would break off the curses of your father and his father and his father. And when you break through and break out and become everything God's created you to be, you look back and you say, that was an uphill climb, but I did it. Because if not, it's either like this. It's uphill or it's downhill. Going down the mountain's easy. The climb to get up there so you can is very difficult at times. It's a good possibility. Hmm. Yeah. So back to the last thing. If the correct response to where I have failed chooses at least a great portion of my character and defines my reality. And again, people ask me, this is the question I used to get asked all the time. You've heard enough of it, you don't really, you just heard the story. But people that even meet me for the first time or when we were going through the whole Gabriel thing, the number one question they'd ask me for years, probably 10 or 12, 15 years, if you could choose not to go through that again, would you change that? Now see, that's a very difficult question. If I could go back and not put him in that car seat, what's wrong with people?
He's preaching.
There's people who know it, which they should be here listening. If I could go back on that Sunday, go back to Captain Joe's where we ate lunch, and not put him in the car seat with his grandparents, her parents, to go do ministry to help people, that would have never happened. If I could change that moment, would I change it? People will not want to know. And without hesitation, my whole life, I'd say I'd never change it. Was that God's plan and purpose for his life? It just happened, guys. It was an accident that happened every day. But what it did do, it set me on a course after a God I knew nothing about. I've been raised in church all my life, but there's people that sit on pews every day and their lives never change. But it put me on a pursuit to know a God of the Bible who does the impossible. To find out my only hope is in him and not anything else that's away from him. And so that defined who you see today. Pre-Gabriel, you probably wouldn't have liked me. Not just because I wore a suit, but I thought I was always right. I thought the world revolved around me. I thought I was going to follow the stepping stones to become something great in a denomination that I thought was everything. But then that turned me away from everything that man could do for me. It turned me fully focused towards that I must trust God every step of the way. And though I haven't seen the fulfillment of everything he's promised me, and it seems like an uphill climb, I still choose to climb. I still choose to move forward. I still choose to believe. And here we go. I still choose to adjust when I need to adjust. Because he set a path. Remember, we won't get into it too deep tonight, but predestination, he goes to the end of our life and works his way back. So he set a plan for us, and most of that plan is an uphill climb. Ain't nothing going to be easy. If it is, it probably ain't worth much. Life will be difficult. Life will have its challenges. Serving God is, listen to me, serving God is one of the most difficult things you'll ever do. Because you can look at your best friend out there partying, having everything, and he has the boat on the river. He has the yacht, and he has the nicer car. He has the bigger house, and you're a servant of the Most High, and you're struggling. Yeah. But yet you have to decide, who are you going to trust and put your hope in? And realize greater things are for you. Listen, that's materialistic, and that's where we have to really unfocus our mind. Well, it's the this and the that, the cars and the yachts and the golf memberships and the nice. I'm not saying that's not bad to have, but listen, we're talking about eternity here. We're talking about when this life is over, when the few short years He's promised us, when that's over. Listen, you'll reign and have it all. Life is an uphill climb. Listen, there will be. I don't plan to fail tomorrow, but I might. There's only 2 people in the Bible that I can remember who didn't. I'm pretty sure they failed, but there's no really explanation of their failure or example of their failure. It will be Nehemiah and Joseph. Other than that, every prophet and Jesus, of course. Other than that, you look at the motley crew of people Jesus put around him. I'm like, choose you some better people. And my God, you could see their lives. He chose realistically. He chose something he could sure teach from. You know what I'm saying? But listen, the Bible is full of failures. Learn from it. Embrace the hard things. Maneuver. Keep moving forward. Keep believing. Keep trusting. Share it with others. As imperfect as we are, people need to know that. It used to be a saying, we don't do it here, but it was the church I came from, a perfect church for people who aren't. We are a perfect church for people who aren't. Yeah. It's true. It's exactly who we are. Amen? Any questions?
Anybody got no questions?
That's good. Means I taught it pretty well. Well,
Get some crackers.
let's pray out, and y'all can go back shopping.
Please, everybody come shopping.
Go get some chicken. So, Father, we thank you for this night. We thank you for your word. Lord, we thank you for successes, but we thank you, Father, that we make the right choices when we fail. I thank you, God, that, man, we are all a work in progress. But, Father, I pray that we continue forward. That, God, you give us, that you keep the vision fresh before us. That, God, as we are a church on the move, that we truly are a church on the move. We're not a church that just sits, and that's just not a church that just occupies here, but we're a church that God will move. Move in our city, God. Move in our state, move in our counties, God. Move wherever we move. That we are movers and shakers. And people, God, are attracted to that. Father, I pray that you bring the right people into this fellowship, this church, God. It's not about the money, God, but it's really not about the money. It's about your kingdom. But God, I pray that you put everything in place that we need as we are a church. And God, as we move forward towards this land, God, that it may be blessed. And God, you send the right people and the right finances, Father, the things that we need to do what you've called us to do, to be an impact to our city, our community. God, you promised us, and you spoke it to us, and you confirmed it through Will Ford, who came many, many years ago and had no clue of a prophetic word that's been spoken over the city. And he said the Lord showed him that we would have a 500-mile radius impact. And we declare that's what we'll have. That God will be able to impact, not impress, but impact 500 miles in all directions. That word was given, it was confirmed with someone that did not know. And God, we walk out that because we are people that are on the move. In Jesus' name. And everybody said?
Amen.
Amen. All right.